Welcome in to Coach Craig. This is the CFL DFS week number 13 video. So it looks like my camera's still not working at this point in time. It was an issue yesterday for the baseball stream, so I do apologize for that. But what we'll be doing in this stream, if you're brand new to it, we'll go over my sheet for this week, go over like the injuries in play, whether or not I would consider players in play for GPPs, cash game play, or kind of like a pay down option dart throw type of from there. I will also be going over, if I'm playing a quarterback, who I'm going to primarily be playing them with in terms of stacking, and then kind of if I'd be overweight or underweight to the field on certain players. So this is where I'm going to start off with. It's a pretty interesting week for CFL this week. Still waiting on some information as the first game does not actually start till tomorrow on Saturday. Then there's a Sunday game and I believe 2 Monday games for Labor Day weekend. So hopefully each and every one of you have a good Labor Day weekend, whether you are up in Canada, whether you're in the United States, wherever you are. Hopefully it's a good one for you. But without further ado, we'll get into this sheet. We are starting off with the first game. We got the BC Lions. Vernon Adams is $12,000. I got him listed as a GPP option at this point in time. Very strong upside out of him, as always. Coming back from an injury, not running quite as much, but still has a very good group of wide receivers to throw to. Looks pretty strong there. Just the price tag is a little bit higher than, so I'll probably be in line with the field on him this week overall. We're going to move down to Taekwon Mazzell, $9,200 GPP option. I'll have a couple shares of him here and there, probably ultimately be in line with the field on him as well. And then at wide receiver, it's going to get pretty interesting this week. We still got Dominique Grimes listed on IR. He's on the 6-game IR. Then we did get news yesterday that Alexander Hollins and Keon Hatcher both were limited yesterday. Hatcher with the foot injury and Hollins with a knee injury. Will monitor this situation very closely as both are listed as questionable at this point in time. If anything does majorly change with that, I'm going to leave that down in the comments because it could make a very big shakeup on the slate overall. If one of them were to miss, Lucky Whitehead is going to look really good at $7,700. So maybe a little bit more over the weight on him this week as GPP option, but all three are GPP viable if they all ultimately end up playing this week overall. If one of them's to miss, 2 of them's to miss, whether it's Hollins or Hatcher, Javon Catoy could play a bigger role as kind of a pay down option at $3,500. Justin McInnes could play a larger role as well at $4,000. So we're just going to keep an eye out on that as it moves along. BC Lions, the defense been a little bit of hit or miss as of late. GPP option against the Montreal Alouettes, so it would be an interesting option there just in general. Hopefully a bounce back week for them overall. And on the Alouettes side, there's not too much that I really want to get to here. Cody Fajardo hasn't been the greatest as of late since kind of coming back from his injury. William Stanbeck kind of splitting carries at this point in time. Him, Walter Fletcher, and Jayshawn Antwi, who is a little bit banged up himself, though, but he should be good to go this week still. So not really too interested in that running back position. Mainly from the wide receiver position, we're looking at Austin Mack. We're looking at Tyler Snead once again. Maybe Tyson Philpott is kind of a pay down option at $3,900. Just kind of see how it all shakes out. They did cut Hergy Mayala this week, so that is just something noteworthy, but in general, probably be in line with the field. And Austin Mack was limited all week in practice, so we'll see how that ultimately ends up playing out. Maybe a little bit overweight on Tyler Snead, maybe a little bit overweight on Tyson Philpott, but nothing too crazy here this week. That Alouettes defense still pretty good. Going against BC could be an okay matchup. Probably be ultimately a little bit underweight to the field on them, but I still think they're option out there for this GPP settings at the very least. Moving down to Winnipeg, we got Zach Collaros at $10,700. Have him listed as a GPP option. I think he's a viable cash game option this week. Some pretty strong upside to be had there. Obviously, they have some pretty strong wide receivers. Brady Oliveira has been doing really well lately at running back, so he's another GPP option at $10,300. Probably be overweight to the field on Collaros this week. Probably be in line with the field on Brady Oliveira. Maybe a little bit underweight just because he's been doing so well as of late, so he might be kind of popular. For the wide receivers, I'm looking at Nick Dominski at $10,400 as a potential cash game option. He has been their most consistent wide receiver week to week. Do like the upside that he does have. If you want to go with Dalton Shane, if you want to go with Kenny Lawler, both are GPP viable as well. Probably ultimately be in line with the field on them this week. Probably, if I had to make a stand on one of them, probably ultimately would be Kenny Lawler, though, as opposed to Dalton Shane, who's had a little bit more success as of late. So he's probably going to be a little bit more popular. And then, that Winnipeg defense, going in against the Rough Riders could be a decent matchup here. So I consider them a GPP viable option as well. Probably ultimately be in line with them on the field. So we'll see how that all looks as we move along. For the Rough Riders, we got, Trevor Harris and Mason Fine both on IR at this point in time. safe to assume that's Jake Dolegala at quarterback once again. $8,800 viable GPP option there. Maybe a little bit overweight to him on the field. So if you're playing him, probably not want to play Winnipeg's defense against him. Just gets a little bit awkward there. Jamal Morrow, $8,400 is not a bad price tag, but it feels like he's a little bit capped in terms of his upside at this point in time. So if you want to get there, feel free to do so. I'm probably just going to ultimately be a little bit underweight to him. And wide receiver, I think there's a couple different options here. We saw Tevin Jones kind of fade off with all these other wide receivers kind of making their role at this point in time. Sean Bain Jr. has been doing pretty good at $9,200. GPP option probably in line with the field on him. Samuel Emilus at $6,000, been doing pretty well the last couple of weeks. So I think he's a viable GPP option as well. Maybe slightly overweight to the field on him. Jared Stern still a very strong GPP paydown option at $4,200, and then Keon Schaefer Baker at $8,200 could be a viable GPP option. Did come back the last game and score a touchdown. So nobody that I'm going out of my way specifically here for. Jared Stern's probably be the one that I end up with the most ultimately, though, especially if I'm playing Jake Dolegala. And for their defense, they're going against Blue Bombers. Not really too interested in that Rough Riders defense just in general. Should be probably a pretty back and forth game if I had to guess at this point in time, unless Dolegala kind of lays an egg. So that's kind of a chance that could happen on the slate. Moving down to the Toronto Argonauts, I like Chad Kelly as a GPP option at $11,500. Probably in line, maybe slightly overweight to the field on him once again this week. And then at running back, AJ Allo at $9,500 GPP option. Ultimately be a little bit overweight to the field on him this week. So do like him quite a bit once again. And then we have kind of their wide receivers. You got DeMonte Coxie, Devarius Daniels, and Cam Phillips. All very viable GPP options this week. Devarius Daniels being the most expensive at $8,500. Coxie probably going to be the one that gets the most, followed by Cam Phillips this week overall. David Unger III was limited on Thursday due to an ankle injury, so we'll just kind of note that at this point in time. And then the Toronto defense going against the Tiger Cats should be a pretty decent matchup, so they could be a viable GPP option, maybe even a cash game option once again this week, just kind of depending on how Taylor Powell plays for the Hamilton Tiger Cats this week overall in that rivalry game. For the Tiger Cats, Taylor Powell, $9,200, really just doesn't have the upside, and the price tag isn't like super nice where we have to play him, so not going to play him this week. James Butler, GPP option, potential cash game option once again. If you're not playing Toronto in your defense for cash games, would consider James Butler there. Probably going to be overweight to him once again this week. And then kind of we getting down to the wide receivers. Duke Williams did return to practice. He was full on Thursday due to his chest injury. And so a wide receiver, we're looking at Tim White at $8,800 GPP option. Terry Godwin, $4,800 GPP option there. So kind of mix and match those guys. Probably nothing special. Probably in line with the field on them overall. Not really getting to the Tiger Cats defense against the Argonauts this week. Rivalry game aside, not really something that I'm trying to get to. If you want to be super contrarian, you could probably do it though. Then we're going to move down to the Edmonton Elks. I think Trey Ford's $9,700. Strong GPP option, maybe even a cash game option with his rushing upside once again. Kevin Brown in the backfield, $7,900. Not a bad price tag. Been doing better since Trey Ford took over at quarterback. And they've been running the ball quite a bit more, so he is a viable GPP option. Maybe a little bit overweight to him on the field. Maybe you can even roll him and trade Ford out together if you really want to do so. Down at wide receiver, it's the guy that is on the thumbnail. It's Eugene Lewis at $6,000. GPP option looked pretty strong since he's been back. Potential cash game option popped off real big in a way last week. So probably ultimately going to be overweight to the field on him. Emmanuel Arcano, kind of a GPP pay down option if you want to get there. Probably be in line with the field on him this week. Not really trying to get to any other wide receivers from this team though. Dunbar had the good week 2 weeks ago. Kyron Moore hasn't been quite the same since Lewis has been back. Dylan Mitchell limited on Tuesday due to a head injury. We'll see if he ultimately ends up playing this week or not. And for some reason, I did not write the Elks defense price point down. So they're going against Calgary. I think they're going to be a viable defense this week. Probably be a little bit overweight to the field on them once again. Then when we move down to Calgary, we got Jake Maier here, $9,000. Yes, he had the really big week last week, but I don't trust it. I'm not going back there. If you really want to make that stance, go ahead and do so. Kadeem Carey was able to practice in full on Thursday due to his quad injury, so he should be back. So him and Diedrich Mills kind of splitting that workload. Not really too interested in either one. William Langley's was full participant in practice on Thursday due to a shoulder injury. Shouldn't make a major difference though. So nothing too crazy there from their running back department, not playing any of them at this point in time. Reggie Buggleton had the monster game last week, $9,300, very viable GPP option. Maybe slightly overweight to him on the field this week. Nothing too crazy though. And then we got Mark and Michelle. We'll have a little bit of exposure to him at $5,500. Tommy Lee Lewis at $4,500. If he ultimately does end up playing, consider him a decent paydown option. Full on Thursday due to his wrist injury after missing last week. So would consider him viable. Tyson Middlemost at $2,500. Didn't practice Thursday due to a head injury. And then we have Markeith Ambles as kind of a paydown option if you want to get there at $3,400. Not really going out of my way to do that, though. Kind of mixed and matching Calgary wide receivers. Don't want to have more than one of them in any lineup this week for myself personally. And then Calgary's defense, you know, if you want to take a chance on them, like I said, with the Elks, I didn't write their defense down either. But Calgary, if you want to get there, you can get there, but not really going out of my way to do it this week overall. But like for the most part, like a quarterback, I'm mainly going to be on Trey Ford, going to be on Zach Collaros, going to be a little bit of Vernon Adams, a running back, mainly going to be James Butler this week, a little bit of Kevin Brown here and there, probably a little bit of EJ Alouette, I'll probably have a larger share of as well. And then a little bit of Brady Oliveira, and then wide receiver, just kind of a good mix and match this week. Like I said, I'll probably be overweight on a couple guys, probably in line with the field on a couple of other guys. And if I didn't really mention them, probably not getting to them at all this week. Trying to keep this video kind of short and simple at this point in time. Looks like my battery saver is popping up that's about to die. But if you guys have any questions regarding CFL DFS for week number 13, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Or if you want to reach out to me on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, feel free to do so as well. We'll have this sheet posted up on my Patreon page later tonight with any updates that do come out throughout the weekend in terms of injuries and everything else like that. But definitely be sure to check that out if you're interested in it. We'll have the CFL DFS stats through week number 12, as well as the averages for each team, for each player, and everything else like that on the Patreon as well, which is a very small monthly donation if that's something you're interested in. But with that being said, that's all that I have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on. And some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for week number 13 this weekend.